everyone, welcome to Friday Live. Today is November 15th. Let me start.
Today we're doing something a little different.
A little bit fun and exciting. For the next 2 months leading up to the end of the year, we're going to do case studies. Whether it's real people or fictional people, we're going to do their planning for them too, so you can have a feel of what topics to think about, what kind of subject to talk about when you're approaching your own planning. So, good afternoon. Welcome to Sage Legacy Law's Friday Live session. I'm Angela Chow, and I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Ruki. We're thrilled to have you join us for another exciting session where we dive into real-life lessons through the lens of estate planning. So today's session, we talked about it, it's going to be a little different. Instead of focusing on dry legal terms and technicalities that might go over your head, we're going to bring estate planning to life through a fictional character. So today we're going to explore Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man, how he could benefit from proper estate planning, which I hope he already has.
There's a lot of issues in there, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, better known as Iron Man. See how he could benefit from proper planning to protect his legacy and loved ones. So let's get started.
All right. Thank you. So Angela, we are going to start him off, and I think just that character is just so exciting. So everybody loves him or hate him. So while he's really busy saving the world, he is also dealing with all the complexity of wealth, family, and business. So that's where estate planning comes in. It doesn't matter how famous or wealthy you are, having a comprehensive estate planning is essential to protection, and it will protect everything that you've worked so hard to build. So let's dive into Tony Stark's life and see how estate planning applies to him.
All right, let's set the stage. Tony Stark is a billionaire inventor, philanthropist, and the face of Stark Industries. He's also a superhero, saving the world on a regular basis. But beyond his high-tech armor and international business dealings, Tony is also a family man. He has his wife, Pepper Potts, or partnered. I don't know, were they married? I think so.
No, I think they actually got married.
He has his wife, Pepper Potts, and his daughter, Morgan Stark. So what happens if something happens to Tony? How can he make sure his family and business are protected?
Okay.
First, we know Tony has a lot at stake. Stark, to name a few. Stark Industries, a global corporation that generates billions of dollars. His iconic mansion and other personal properties, tangible or intangible. His intellectual property, which is big, including his inventions and the Iron Man suits.
Yeah, all that different versions, right? A whole gallery of them.
Yeah, his estate is very complex, and like many high net worth individuals, he needs to plan carefully to ensure that his wealth and legacy are passed down smoothly and that his family is taken care of.
So, the first thing Tony would need is, number one, revocable living trust. Why? Because his life is just unpredictable. As we all know, his job involves like constant risks, and he always fighting bad guys. So a revocable living trust is a powerful tool that can help Tony avoid a probate process if anything were to happen to him.
Sorry. And Tony could put well, do you want to continue?
So he could put all his assets, including all this that you mentioned, the Stark Industry, the personal properties, and his invention into the trust. So this way, his assets can be transferred directly to his wife Pepper and his daughter Morgan without delay and without the need for court involvement. Can you imagine him such high profile going into court?
It's gonna be forever.
So let's remember the trust can the trust, because we're talking about the revocable living trust, it can be amended or revoked while Tony is still alive. You know how he changes his mind all
the time?
Yes. So he has full control over it as his life evolves and changes and his idea changes. This flexibility is really important for someone in Tony's position.
Yeah, especially he had backstabbing people too, right? Like he had to switch his advisor. Anyway, so now moving on to something very important, tax planning. So I'm sure Tony has all the legal and tax advisors available to him, but for our purposes, he's incredibly wealthy, and we know that means taxes, specifically federal estate taxes. And right now, let's remind everyone, in 2025, the exemption limit is 13.99 million for individuals and about 28 million for a couple. But even that's like, Tony's way above that, right? These can eat into the value of his estate if it doesn't plan properly. That's at 40% tax. One of the strategies Tony could use to reduce his taxable estates through irrevocable trusts. If he puts some of his wealth, like certain intellectual property or charitable donation, into an irrevocable trust, that could take these assets out of his estate, thus reducing the estate tax burdens and bringing that amount down. And yes, this would also benefit his legacy to ensure that a portion of his wealth is donated costs that align with his values, maybe a clean energy foundation or a program supporting technology, innovations. We also want to talk about other ways to reduce tax liabilities, such as leaving assets to his charitable trust or structuring his asset in a way that minimizes capital gain taxes, which I think he already does because he went to the charity balls and stuff in the movie.
I remember all those details.
I remember a lot. I watched all the superhero movies.
All of them.
I have 2 boys, so.
All right. So aside from that, next up, we move on to his family. So he has a young daughter, Morgan. So if something were to happen to him and Pepper, Tony would need to ensure that Morgan is taken care of by someone he trusts. So that's where guardianship comes into play. In this case, Pepper, of course, the mother, so she would be the natural guardian. But what if both Tony and Pepper were incapacitated or passed away unexpectedly? So Tony could designate a backup guardian, someone he trusts completely, to raise Morgan in line with his value and his vision. And then also another aspect is to consider whether he needs to create the health care directives. So this would align with his wishes if he was ever incapacitated. I think in certain times he was quite a few times. Like we always say, it actually happens. The possibility of it happening is actually more than death itself.
Even to a superhero.
Yep. And when he was incapacitated, he couldn't speak for himself. If he were injured on one of his missions, Pepper, as his designated healthcare agent, would be able to make medical decisions on his behalf based on his intentions and wishes.
And also power attorney. I mean, he needs to have a power attorney so Pepper could run his company if he's incapacitated or do anything that he needs to do. So that's another thing, medical and personal power attorney. So let's talk about business succession. Tony is the face of Stark Industries. It's a company that represents his life's work. In the event of his death or incapacity, Tony needs to decide who will take over, like we talked about. Power attorney, Pepper Potts is an obvious choice to lead the company, given her role as a CEO and her longtime partnership with Tony. However, there needs to be also, on top of what we talked about, a clear and formal succession plan in place. This ensures that the Stark Industries will continue to thrive and the leadership transition will be smooth. If Tony were to pass away unexpectedly, the plan would give clear instructions on who will step up into leadership, what decision needs to be made, and how his business empire will continue to function. This is very important, as we know from the movies. People are always trying to take over, right? We also recommend that Tony include specific instructions on how to handle things like intellectual property rights and any future inventions. This keeps the business operating without a hitch and protects his innovative legacy, and also protect world peace because he makes a lot of good weapons.
I think also because you know how he and Pepper, they always have like almost opposite ideas of how to do things. It's like, it's really useful, and it would help to transition a lot smoother if you leave exact instructions or your vision. How do you foresee that happening with your legacy? So that whoever that is, your successor would know how to carry on, or at least, have that in consideration when they themselves may want to make different moves.
Yeah, it's true, because during your lifetime, people don't think about it often. Like you, husband and wives, partners, they talk it out. You're able to communicate. But when one person is incapacitated and unable to speak or passes away, you have no one to ask. Right? You can't bounce off ideas. You can't come to a joint decision. So these instructions are very important because they at least know your wishes and intent. It's like you're able to guide each other still beyond death.
So to wrap it up, what can we learn from Tony Stark's estate plan? It's clear that someone with wealth, assets, and a family needs comprehensive estate plan. Whether it's setting up a revocable living trust to avoid probate, to reduce estate taxes with irrevocable trust, ensure you have the guardianship for minor children, or having a succession plan for business, estate planning is crucial to protect family and legacy, including Tony Stark's.
Yeah, so even superheroes like Tony Stark needs to think about the future, and so do we. No matter who you are or what stage of life you're in, making sure your estate plan is in place gives you the peace of mind knowing that your loved ones will be cared for no matter what happens.
So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that Tony Stark's story has helped illustrate really important concepts in estate planning and a way to think about it, and hopefully it's actually fun and relatable. Though we probably don't have that wealth, but I think
Well, it's a lot of relatable on different layers. I mean,
All
we're not up
layers.
there, but we are a lot of people that own have families, own businesses. You know, there's a lot to think
tangible
about.
property, family, and
Intellectual
minor
property.
children.
Yeah.
So if you're ready to create your own legacy plan, we're here to help. Reach out to us at Sage Legacy Law, and let's make sure your estate and loved ones are protected.
We'll see you next Friday. Next Friday for another live session, and maybe you could guess who we're gonna plan for next week.
Or
It's
if
gonna
you
be
have any ideas, you can actually throw it out to us.
Yeah,
We'll
put in the
the
comments. Who do you want us to plan for? Some fictional character, your favorite Disney character, anything. So take care, and remember, it's never too early to plan ahead. Have a good
See you
weekend.
next week.